Hi, hi everyone. Welcome to the session Exploring the Self Through Adversity. So this is an integration session. It may be the last of the series of the webinar. I'm Therese and I will be your facilitator for this session. So a little bit more about me. I am a consultant psychologist for child fam possibilities. This has been put together for you so that you can be able just to assist you with coping with what we are dealing right now. A little bit more about me as a full-time work that I have. I am the project manager of the Colombo Plan Drug Advisory Program, where I handle the Philippine initiatives. I am the founder, and I'm an entrepreneur. Um, I handle Camp Coco Wellness Alternatives, which is a service provider on wellness and lifestyle. At the same time, I am an advocate of mental health and addiction recovery, where most of my experience has been on substance use, addiction, and recovery management. I also conduct a lot of trainings locally and internationally on treatment and recovery, and I will be facilitating this session for you. Okay, so like I said, this webinar is all about putting things together, integrating what you have learned, what are some of your insights from the previous sessions that you've had, and what you have been learning about yourself, and then identifying some actions that you'd like to bring with you as we end this series. Okay, so what we need today, all you need is a pen and paper. If you feel like that's better for you, or if you want to do everything digitally, that's okay as well. You can open like a separate blank file and be able to have this worksheet that is specifically for this session. I have sent it out with the materials. So you can again use that digitally or use that manually, like with a pen. And of course, we need you to be fully present, to be with us here. It's better if you are in a comfortable spot where there are minimal distractions. Okay, so what are we having today? So this session is all about, well, first we're going to be identifying, you would be identifying what would you like to take away out of the session. We're going through identifying some inner strengths. We're looking into how we're handling stress and anxiety. We're going to be identifying our circle of support, and we're going to be ending with growing with gratitude. So I guess in this session, what you can expect are a lot of activities. But the activities are really more of the reflection type on, again, piecing together things that we've learned um, in terms of the different sessions that you've had. Again, combining it with what you've been learning from yourself and what you can take away from this session. Okay, but first of all, let's start with what does the new normal look like for you? So if you do have a piece of paper, you can make some notes of what does it look like right now for you. Does your new normal look like grocery runs, or looking for face masks that you'd like to buy, or working from home a lot, or exercising, or learning new skills? What does it look like for you? So just take a little bit of time um, to work on that. I'll give you a few seconds, maybe, just very quickly, to put that in a journal or on your worksheet on a blank space there of what your new normal is looking like. Okay. So I think I have a couple more images here, just some ideas as well. Okay, so for a lot of us, how things are going is that we're spending a lot of time at home, maybe alone, maybe with other people, maybe with family, maybe we've moved back to family, or we may be living alone, or we may be in a different situation as compared to before COVID-19 pandemic. So just having that in mind and keeping yourself reminded of what are you dealing with right now? How are you doing? Okay, so you can do this. So we're gonna do a simple exercise. You can do this at the back of the worksheet or on any file or piece of paper that you have. So one of the things you can do is you can draw a ruler or you can imagine a ruler between 1 to 10. And right now, I'd like you to rate how's your sleep lately. For me, in the beginning of the quarantine, I wasn't getting really good sleep. I was getting a lot of disrupted um, my sleep was more disrupted, which did not happen before. So it seemed like it was a significant change, but over time, I guess it got better. So for you, I'd like you to rate how your sleep is from 1 being, let's say, very poor to 10, very good. So just to rate yourself where you are. Okay, the next one is for you to rate how you're nourishing yourself. How have you been eating? Are you having 3 meals or not necessarily there's no right or wrong, but how do you feel are you being able to nourish yourself between 1 to 10? Are your eating habits very poor or very good? So this is not about are you gaining weight or not. So this is about you being able to nourish yourself with food. There may be times, especially if we are um, very overwhelmed and stressed, it can be like one of the extremes, like um, there's a significant decrease or loss of appetite, or it's a time wherein we eat and eat and eat and eat and eat, and it's not becoming very healthy. Okay, so after you've done that, I would like you to rate your mood with how you're feeling lately. So here, when you rate yourself, 1 is feeling very uncomfortable in terms of emotions. It can be stress, it can be anxiety, it can be sadness, whatever it is. 10 towards 10 is more of the comfortable emotions, like you're feeling relaxed or calm, things like that. So where are you in terms of mood? Is it more of the uncomfortable or more of the comfortable realm of emotions? Okay. So once you have that, the last one is I would like you to rate how your relationships are going. So here we're not really identifying them per relationship. We are generalizing it on maybe first thinking about who are the people around you, and then how are you connecting with these people, with your relationships. How are your relationships? Again, rating 1 would be, let's say, very poor, and then 10 could be really great, like very good. So where are you between 1 to 10? Okay, so now we're gonna move on. Okay, so hopefully you do have your worksheet with you. I'm gonna be moving my face every now and then in this recording because of the headings and the text. Okay, so here I'd like you to identify what are your 3 key takeaways. Like, what would you like to be able to do, or yeah, what would be your takeaways after this session, like given an overview of what we're gonna have. So I'll give you some time to do that. Okay, so let's move forward. Okay, so this is the worksheet that hopefully you've started to fill out with the first box that we have. So by the end of the session, supposedly you have filled up all of the boxes. Okay. Okay, so now let's start with strengths. I would like you to think about the strengths that you have. So sometimes it's a little bit challenging to think about our strengths, especially in times of a lot of struggle, a lot of crisis. Sometimes we do forget, I can do this. This is what I have. These are my resources. So we're going to be taking a lot of time. Well, not a lot of time. We're going to be taking some time to think about and be able to write down what are our inner strengths. So we have 2 columns here. The first one says what skills and strengths I already have even before quarantine. So in the past, we may have experienced, like over our lifespan, or the life that we've lived, we may have experienced a lot of challenging things that we were able to overcome. I would like you to just think about those things that you were able to overcome, or maybe think about some of the achievements that you've had and how you were able to get there, and be able to make a list in this box of the strengths and the skills that you have within you even before this quarantine and before the pandemic has happened. So the things here are just some examples for you. On another column, I would like you to make a list of what are the skills and strengths that you've developed so far during the quarantine. So we've been here for about over 3 months. And I'd like you to take that time and think, what are those skills that you've started to develop during this time? Or the strengths that you have developed during this crisis? Like, one of the things I've never done before was to cook or bake anything. But because of the situation that I've encountered where I was stuck in a place which is not my home, and of course for some of those times I had nothing to do, so I was able to learn these new skills that I've never done before, which is to cook and to bake stuff, which now I am proudly able to do. So it could be anything. It doesn't have to be, it can be small things, it can be big things, no right or wrong. Okay. So as we're making your list, there may be some points that you can feel a little bit stuck on what you could write. So here I have, move this again. So these are just some questions. You don't have to answer all of them. It's just to help you grow the list. If you're feeling a little bit stuck in identifying strengths, identifying skills, sometimes we get clouded with judgment for ourselves. So some of the things that are here, what are some challenges I have overcome, or what do others say they like about me? What are some of my achievements? Usually with our achievements, there are a lot of struggle. We don't just reach that immediately. We usually go through those series of ups and downs before that finish line. And maybe this is a time where you can try to recall what were those strengths and skills that you pulled out. I guess in this time of crisis, there are things that we have to do, but it's something that we may like we have not tried to do before, but now we're learning and maybe we're developing those skills even further. Okay, so as we move forward, so well, if and when you feel like you need to come back to your worksheet to add a bit more, feel free to do that um, at a point where you could have more time in between. But to continue the session, we started with identifying the skills that we have, the ones we've had even before the crisis, and the ones that we are growing and developing as we are experiencing a lot of challenging things as we go through a pandemic, as we go through a crisis. When we looked at the new normal, there is a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety about what is going to happen, what is going to be tomorrow like, when is this going to end, or when are we going to make plans, or when can I ever get to go outside and not wear a mask. So a lot of these things can cause stress, can cause anxiety. Also, especially with thinking about the uncertain, thinking about the unknown. But again, just some important things or important reminders for us are: one, feeling those emotions like feeling stressed, feeling anxious is totally normal. It doesn't make you like a weird alien being by feeling those things. If and when you feel these things, these tell you that you are normal, you are alive. It is felt. Another thing about that is that these emotions, stress, anxiety, and other uncomfortable emotions, it can be managed. And it can even be an opportunity for us to learn about ourselves. So experiencing these can also be healthy for us, can also tell us that, yes, I have the ability to overcome these problems. I have the ability to take control over my thoughts, take control over my behaviors. Dealing with stress and anxiety allows us to learn important life skills. So like how we say, life is not just about having those happy and comfortable moments. It's also about those experiences that are really, really difficult, really, really challenging, really give us a lot of struggle. But as we overcome and as we try to navigate ourselves into these experiences, we learn a lot of skills that we have and that we can develop. So here, what we're gonna do is to kind of again reflect on how we are managing our emotions that could be a little bit more uncomfortable. Okay, so here you can see, okay, so like what we said, when the stress, the anxiety that we are feeling right now in the time of crisis especially is normal. It's a normal reaction for your body to feel a little bit different because of a lot of stress, because of a lot of anxiety. Like sometimes how you feel stressed in your body is that there's a lot of tightness in the chest, or your heart beats really fast, or your breathing is a little bit irregular. So those are typical reactions to stress, to anxiety. And having those moments more right now is common. And also, how we experience stress and anxiety could be through our thoughts as well. Like there are thoughts that keep you up at night, that makes it more difficult to sleep, that give you a lot of worries, or certain times where you become more distracted or you lose concentration. So I'd like you to think about what goes on for you and to write that in your worksheet. You have a box there for body, for thoughts. So take the time to write what applies to you. Feelings, some of the common feelings that are being experienced right now in time of crisis is that overwhelming feeling, or sadness, or irritable. Like sometimes you're not sure why, but you are irritable or frustrated. So if any of these things apply, or if there's more, just write them down. If you feel like you need more space, if you're writing on a piece of paper, you can always use the back page. Okay. And the last column here is behavior. What are the behaviors that you show when you are feeling stressed and anxious? Is it this time where you are more of isolating yourself or not reaching out to others? Or is this the time where you try to like have a timeout and have some space from others? Or like what tells you that you are experiencing these emotions? How is your behavior? Okay, so make sure you're able to fill out these 4 boxes: body, thoughts, feelings, and behavior. Okay, so we're going to be using these things um, in the next slide and in the next part of the exercise. Okay, so if you have all of these already, you fill up your boxes on how you have been, on how the body feels, how are your thoughts, or what do you think about, um, how do you feel, and what are your behaviors as you experience stress, as you experience anxiety. So now, maybe there are times where some of these things are not so healthy for us. Like, there are times where there may be some parts where you feel like we can improve in certain things. So maybe you can make a mark on those things that you want to be able to handle better. And here, you can make a note of how you handle stress and anxiety. Like, what do you do about it? What do you do about you thinking, you having a lot of thoughts that bring you a lot of fear or bring you a lot of worry? What do you do? Like, do you watch Netflix? Do you call a friend? Do you like, how are you able to support yourself? How are you able to handle these emotions that could be overwhelming? And then, so it doesn't have to be a lot. You can just identify a few things. And then, if again, there are things that you'd like to change, like some coping behaviors that, or some habits that you formed that you'd like to change, what are those? In terms of you handling stress, in terms of you handling anxiety. And then in the last column, how I want to deal with it next time. So how would you like to, what are some of the things that you would like to try or you would like to practice in times where you may feel stressed, you may feel a lot of anxiety. So here are some examples on the screen. These are some very simple but quite effective strategies. One is being able to identify your triggers. When I say triggers, it's basically all of those things you've identified previously. How the body feels, what is the thinking like, what are some emotions that come up, and then what are some behaviors that you do when you are feeling these things. Like, let's say a time where I'm raising my voice, or a time where I'm starting to bang the door, or I'm starting to feel more irritable. These may be some of my signs that tell me that I'm feeling more stressed, I'm feeling more uncomfortable. Okay, and having a lot of awareness on these things is usually very, very helpful. Okay. And regular exercise. So if you're able, some people have started a lot of workouts or have been exploring on how to move more, like do a lot of physical exercise also to protect the physical health. It really usually helps a lot if you are the type who doesn't really do a lot of those physical exercise. That's totally fine. You can always start where you are and see what would work for you. To eat and sleep well, we did identify that and look into how our sleep is. So earlier, if you've rated yourself not having very good sleep, this is something you may want to work on, and as well as your eating habits. So if you've rated yourself not very high, maybe you may want to look into that and see how you can be able to improve so that it helps you manage those uncomfortable emotions. The next one is having a timeout. So we don't have to deal with things like head on, straight on when it happens. Sometimes we need a timeout, we need to pause, we need to just find those moments with ourselves before we, do a next step. Another thing is deep breathing. So those deep breaths actually are become very valuable, especially in times of stress, especially in times of anxiety. Also being able to look into our thoughts. What are the thoughts that come up, and how do they make us feel? So allowing ourselves observe, give us an insight of certain thoughts that are making us feel very bad? And what are some thoughts that allow us to feel more relaxed or more calm? So being able to build on those skills is really important. Okay. Okay, another very important part of taking care of our mental health is having a source of support, having a circle of support. So although we may be like physically isolated from others, especially if you are living alone, it is important to make sure that we become connected, even though not physically. It can be emotionally, it can be through use of technology, it can be in creative ways of connecting to others. So that is very important right now. So who can you get that from? It could be with family, it could be from friends, it could be your workplace, it could be different groups, or it could be communities. um, it's a it's very important, especially right now, to be able to reach out to others in this time where we may be physically isolated, and that in itself is very challenging. So it is okay to get that extra support from others. So it gives us a lot of benefits, like it helps us with our physical health, that feeling of security and that feeling of safety, and that we're not alone. Especially in crisis, sometimes you feel like you're the only one experiencing it, and it's really difficult to connect. It's a good reminder, if you're able to connect with others, to just have a phone call, or like do a Zoom call, or just send in some messages, or just get connected with others. So also have better resilience to stress if we are able to get that support, improve our mental well-being, and be able to improve our self-esteem, you know, if we are able to connect with others and have that circle of support. Also, it just makes us feel more satisfied with our lives. So that is very important. So if right now you feel like you are more isolated, sometimes even if we are surrounded by a lot of people, it doesn't mean that we're connected, or like instantly connected with the people around us. It may take a lot of effort as well to have some conversations, even at home, with the people you're with. So if there are times where you feel like you need to work on that, then you can also make a note of that here. You have a box that says circle of support. Right now, I'd like you to identify, where are you getting this support? Where are you getting that social support? So if you feel like you need more in terms of social support here, again, feel free to grow this list. Even after this session, it doesn't mean you don't have it. Maybe some things, maybe it's a time for you to grow this circle, so that you have more, that you get that extra help from others. Or maybe if there are some efforts that you'd like to do from your end, like to reach out to others for you to help yourself, then you can also include that in this box. Okay. Okay, so once you have that, oh, actually, we're moving already towards the end of this session. Um, of course, if there are some boxes that you feel like you need more time with, you can definitely come back to those to add and take more time with it. Okay, So as we move from identifying our circle of support, um, and just having that awareness of its importance and value, especially right now. Now we move on to gratitude. We move on to gratitude with taking that time to reflect on the good things. So there may be, let's say, a million of the bad things or like unpleasant things that are going on, but there may be at least one thing that is going well. That is good. I'd like you to make a list of that and just to kind of say thank you by making that list. So you have a box for gratitude here. So I just like you to make a list in this box. So there are times where the things that we focus on are the awful things, especially now. It's really more difficult because everything we see when we like go on our phones, when we check like social media or the news, everything feels so negative, and that energy really brings us down. So um, for every day, one of the really effective things to do is at the end of every day, or actually, you could also do it at the start of the day, is to write at least three things you're thankful for. It can be as simple as I had a decent meal today, or I had a really good talk with my best friend, or um, something like I had a good laugh with my family today. It can be anything. So just that having that practice of gratitude really is able to improve our mood and our overall well-being. Like what is here on the screen, that practice of that attitude of gratitude goes a long way, most especially in times of crisis. So if you do have your list here, you can keep growing that again even after this session. Okay. So this note over here, this strategy, hopefully you can be able to, that's one of the things, if you feel like you want to continue that, you can do a practice of doing a daily gratitude list and include that in your routine if you feel like it could be helpful. Okay, so one other strategy that you can integrate in your plan, since right now it's kind of like putting things together, having those plans for you to continue on even outside these sessions. Here, this is an acronym: develop a bias for yourself. But it's not what bias means. Just an acronym for breathing. And here, when we talk about developing our breathing, um, I guess one, it's being able to observe our breath and be mindful, um, and being able to use it in times, especially in times where we feel scared, we feel frustrated, very anxious, or very angry. Usually, your breath, your breathing tells you a lot about what you're going through. And for me also, it does help me to pause like before doing anything, especially with my If my mind is clouded with so many thoughts, I just try to focus on my breathing so that I don't have to look at other things that are going on. Okay. The second one is intention, that with the things that we do, it is important to be intentional with our actions, with our behaviors, to that when we do things, we do it with a purpose. We do it with, we do things that are able to serve us good and serve others good. Another one is action, where certain behaviors that we have or actions that we take, um, some of those things may need some change. So for us to be able to let go of some behaviors that we have or some of the things that we do that do not help us grow and do not help us stay healthy, like I guess one behavior that's not really serving me well is to um, like check um, a lot of the um, news or a lot of the updates in terms of the crisis. Like what I would do is like strategically read summaries of what I need to be updated on. But there would be certain days that I would just not look at the others so that I'm able to handle my own emotions. I'm able to not allow myself to become more irritable or worried about what's going on. So I try to limit myself to just the things that are accurate and just the things that I could handle. So, yeah. So, what are some of the actions? What are some of the behaviors that you feel like you can let go? And another thing is space. Space here means holding space for yourself, taking that space for you, giving yourself that space to live well, for you to um, be able to rest, for you to be able to take care of yourself and not feel guilty about it in these times of crisis and struggle. I've heard a lot of people like, especially you are juggling a lot of responsibilities, sometimes with household, with work, with relationships, and all of these are just there. So just to give yourself that space, give yourself that kindness on, you know, doing whatever you can for today may be fine. You know, you don't have to do everything all at the same time, and just taking things at your own pace is totally acceptable. So as we end this session today, I leave you with this quote, which is very helpful, especially when we are feeling really overwhelmed, really bombarded with a lot of negativity. Just being reminded to start where you are, use what you have. Right now, you've just identified a lot of the skills that you have, a lot of the strengths that you have within you, and to do what you can. So, again, taking things at your own pace is totally fine. Allowing yourself to rest in between, allowing yourself to feel emotions, both the uncomfortable and comfortable, is okay. And another thing um, is to remind ourselves that in a time of crisis, things are difficult in itself. And it's important to, on our day to day, to be kind to ourselves and what we do, what we say, and how we go on our everyday. Okay, so this brings us to the end of this session. Again, if you'd like to come back to the different boxes that you have, feel free to do that on your own. If you want to grow your lists, hopefully this can be able to help you in moving towards action, moving towards being able to do and practice what you have been learning about what you have been learning in the webinar, what you have been learning about yourself, about others, and really putting those things to action. So thank you very much for spending your time here, and again, making this time for yourself, and of course, allowing me to share this session with you. Thank you so much, and hopefully you have a great day. Thank you.